Hello, it's Tuesday, September 24th, 2019. You're watching Life Talk, and I'm your host, Mark Crutcher, and we have an issue over here with Renee and her computer. Hello, it's Tuesday.
Hi.
Time delay.
We're good to be here with you today.
Yeah, anyway, as you can tell, I'm here with the usual suspects, my daughter Sheila and my assistant Renee.
What can I say? Computers have their own mind.
You know what this reminds me of, Renee?
When I jumped onto the screen and told Troy that I didn't know how I felt about something.
For those of you who've watched Life Talk for many years, that was about 8 years ago, I guess.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Was not on Live Talk. She was running the teleprompter off camera, and we had she thought we were at a break, and we were talking on the set, me and Father Frank and Troy and Jill Stanek.
Yep.
And Renee thought we were at a break, and so she just joined in the conversation.
I jumped in, and everybody's mouth was like,
we're like, what?
And then we stopped it. But thankfully, it wasn't live. It was
on tape.
recorded.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, but today you ratcheted it up another degree and took it live.
Right, yeah. We like volume on our computers. I'm watching the show with everybody else.
Right. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about besides Renee's faux pas here.
Yes.
And there'll be another one come along pretty soon.
I hope not.
We're seeing a lot of stuff on, and we've talked about this many times in the past, and I'm telling you, between now and the elections, this is going to be the big deal, is climate change.
Climate change and abortion.
And linking climate change to abortion and the need to kill off our babies so that they don't create carbon.
Environmentalists.
Yeah.
It was global warming, and then when people didn't, buy into that, they changed it to climate change.
Well, you know what? I saw a guy the other night on television made perfect sense. And he's not denying that climate does change. We know that climate changes.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But-
there's weather that happens every day, all day.
And I mean, even it's natural though, and NASA puts out charts that shows like years and years and years ago this was happening. It's ebbs and flows. It's natural.
And he was making the point that there's a major distinction, and I had never thought about this till I heard him say it, between climate and weather.
Yes.
Those are two entirely different concepts.
Right.
But anyway, we're seeing this phenomenon where, and basically this goes back to something we've talked about before. These people want us to worship the creation and not the creator.
Yeah. I mean, that goes along with the article that was pulled, Killing the Unborn, Confessing to Plants. And these people are actually in a seminary confessing to a plant and knowing that their life is very short-lived and it gives us oxygen, but we are confessing everything to a plant.
All our sins to plants.
It's insane.
I like nature. I like to go camping. Nobody around here does, so I don't go camping. But I like nature. I recycle.
Well, wait a minute. Just because you don't want to go camping doesn't mean you don't like nature.
Well, no, I know. But what I'm
you're
saying is I like, being out in nature and
Okay.
But we're supposed to take care of our environment. We're supposed to take care of the earth, but we're not supposed to put it over and above people.
Right.
Well, what happened in the Old and New Testament when people were worshiping idols, things that they weren't supposed to? God took control, and it's not a good outcome.
No, it's not a good thing to have happen. But it is a fact. We're now in an environment where these people are not worshiping the Creator. They're worshiping the creation.
Yes,
And
definitely.
we're supposed to be good stewards of the earth because it's a blessing that God gave us. It's a gift that God gave us, and you don't abuse a gift that God gave you. But you don't worship it either.
No, you don't make an idol out of it.
And you don't put it above the interest of people.
Right. And that goes along with these liberals, these children, Gen Zs and millennials, saying that they're not going to have children because of the climate change here.
Or they're going to kill the children that do
Or
have.
they're going to kill the children. And that's okay, because these liberals not having children that may become liberals, that's fine. Don't do it. Just don't.
Well, I mean, my generation has already been decimated because of abortion. So
Well, and by the way, Renee, what you bring up here, that if these liberals don't want to have children, then they shouldn't. That is one of the advantages. And there's been some studies, and we've brought this up in the past, showing that pro-life people and conservatives are having exponentially more children
Yeah.
than liberals and pro-aborts.
Right.
So we're just going to outlast them, if nothing else.
Yeah, but the numbers have dropped,
Right.
drastically in 2000. I have an article right here. In 2017 and 18, it's dropped by 2%. Our fertility rate should be 2.1. It is right now down to 1.72. It dropped from 1.76 in 2017 and 1.72 in 2018. We're not replacing the baby boomers here,
Right.
the people that are leaving, and it's scary because
Wait a minute, people that are leaving.
that are passing
dying
away.
off.
Yeah.
Well,
like me.
what? I have a hard time saying that here. I don't like that word.
but I mean, we're not the only country where we don't have replacement numbers. The majority of countries in Europe,
All right.
and then look at Asia and
Well, I tell you, we've encouraged people in the past. You really need to go out and there's a couple of DVDs out there and watch them. One of them's called Demographic Winter,
Yes.
and one of them's called Demographic Bomb. And these were made by people who are not necessarily, some of them even admit they're not pro-life, but they're showing what the lowered birth rate is doing around the world. And you're having cities in Europe where the city is dying because there's no children.
Yeah, there's nobody to get
To
out
keep
there
going.
and work and make roads and businesses, and it's just. But these liberal kids have bought the lie, and they're totally being exploited here.
Right.
It's just insane.
Let's give everybody a good example of this. Is something that just happened yesterday, I think it was. 16-year-old girl from Sweden named Greta Thunberg somehow or another got invited to speak at the United Nations. And somehow or another she got invited is because they've made a big deal out of her. The climate change people have made a big deal out of
they've
her.
used her.
They've
and-
exploited her over in Europe. But anyway, I want to play this clip for you real quick because this is really telling. Watch this.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
She is a drama queen.
I cannot stand her.
Not only that, I think she's mentally disturbed.
Oh, she is.
And it's probably not her fault. We need to be a little bit. She's 16 years old, and if anybody stole her dreams and stole her childhood, it's the adults who allowed this to happen and put her up to this, and it's the adults who gave her a platform at the United Nations.
That's right.
They should be in jail for child abuse.
Well,
They have abused this young girl.
she needs to actually go to school that teaches the truth, number one. So go back to school. You don't have to be over here, across the ocean. Go back to school. And the people who are suffering and dying are the unborn children.
Right.
They're the ones that are suffering and dying because of idiotic beliefs like that.
Well, let me ask, somebody wrote this for her, obviously. Where are these people that are dying because of climate
Where are
change?
they?
Where are
I'd
they?
love to know where they're at or suffering. Where are they?
And where are these entire ecosystems that have
Right.
collapsed? And if you think this isn't important, I want to point something out to you. Bernie Sanders is now out here justifying open borders in the United States by saying that these illegals are fleeing climate change in their home countries. So they have to come to the United States. So it's not just this kind of mentally disturbed girl here that's the problem. But Bernie Sanders on the other end of the age scale,
Yeah.
right up there with me, all of us 1 foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel. Right. about to be worm food here before long. He's on the
They would actually probably like that. They're like, yay, Mark Crutcher, worm food.
right. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
all that beside the point. They're all buying into this, and let me tell you something. Not one of them believe it. This is about a power grab. This is about politics.
Right.
And when I say not one of them believes it, if you have to resort to perpetuating climate change as real by doing what they did with this girl,
Right.
then what you're saying is it's really a hoax.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's
We
talk.
can't prove it by science. We can't prove it by exchange of ideas. We have to exploit this little girl from Sweden and put her out here in front of the international stage at the United Nations. And it's obscene.
Well, and we can disprove that it's real biblically.
Right.
They've made, anti-environmentalists the enemy. The real enemy is, the lack of respect for life, abortion. That's the real enemy.
Yeah, but they don't want to talk about that. So they say that we can, by every abortion, and we've heard this, we've covered it in the past, every abortion reduces the carbon footprint. So it's a good thing. If they think killing people is a good way to reduce the carbon footprint and they're worshiping the creation and all that matters is the creation and not the people that live in the creation, then why aren't they engaged in mass suicides? I'm not calling for that to happen. But if they're so committed to this and if they're saying these unborn children should give their lives to reduce the carbon footprint, why aren't these people giving their lives to reduce it?
Because they would say that they're an asset, that they're working for, reducing climate change and they're helping. So that's why they're pushing euthanasia after abortion, and next it's going to be, younger
There's
and
no
younger
telling.
people. And
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. If you start studying it, it makes a lot more sense to kill off the elderly than to kill off the unborn. The elderly use a lot more of our resources. They cost a lot more money to sustain. They take a lot more of our health care dollars. I saw something years ago about in the Canadian healthcare system, for example, is the one I saw studied. 80% of their money in their healthcare system goes to support people who are in their 70s or older.
well, look at Europe. They have started killing off the elderly.
Well, they've done it in Canada.
And like I said, it's just going to become more and more and more until they start killing off everybody except for themselves, of course.
Right. Everybody that's flawed, which is every single one of us. Real quick, speaking of the UN, this is pretty neat. The Trump administration urges the UN to drop the pro-abortion language. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar asked to remove the pro-abortion language in official documents, saying that there are many other countries that are there that abortion is illegal, and it is not right for them to have to
Legalize it, yeah.
legalize it, or for our language to be in that.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And we got to applaud the Trump administration. He's done more for the pro-life issue than any president in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And
And as many people that don't like him or think that he's unprofessional or he just tweets, he speaks out of control here, he has done a lot of good for us and the babies.
Now, is he actually pro-life? We don't know. But,
we're looking at the results.
I know Pence is.
Let me ask you this. How many times have we had these guys come out here and tell us how pro-life they were, say all the right things, and then when a vote came,
And
or
they don't-
they
they don't
switch.
act on it.
Right.
Yeah, he does.
So if that can happen, then this can happen as well.
Yeah.
The reverse of it can happen.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you something. I went to a event, as you know, not too long ago with a bunch of black leaders in Dallas, and a black lady there brought up something very interesting about this, and she said that. Trump may not be exactly what we think he ought to be, and we have some issues with him, his personal behavior and language and things like that. But that he's doing more for the pro-life issue than anybody. And she said, the reason God is doing it this way is so that God gets the credit.
Right.
Everybody can look at what Trump's doing and saying, that's not really Trump. He's not really pro-life.
Yeah.
Or
He's not
this, that.
qualified. Yeah.
But he does these things,
Right.
so it must be God that's directing it.
Right.
And,
God's working through him.
you and I have talked about this many times, Renee, over the years, in private conversations and sometimes here on Life Talk. If you look at Scripture, one of the things that's consistent, Old Testament, New Testament, it doesn't matter, is that God always used people who were totally unqualified
For the job, yeah.
for whatever he wanted them to do.
Right.
And some of them actually said it. God, we're not,
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Moses.
Moses.
Yeah.
Right.
it's
Because
the
he
best
wasn't good with speech and he stuttered, so they used Aaron to speak for him, but God worked through Moses.
Right. And so
Samson.
God winds up getting the credit.
Yeah.
But, if you take somebody that's very strongly pro-life and very good speaker and knows all the issues and then he becomes president and does something, you say, well, he did it. But in this case, you're going to say, because of who Trump is, God had to do this.
Right.
This was God's hand.
Yeah.
And she was making that point that this is what's being proven here with Trump's pro-life stance. Sheila, you had a couple of things you wanted to get to before we did robots.
Yeah, this is just another issue you have with abortion. Doctors performing abortions on wrong women. A latest case came out of South Korea where a woman was going in for a nutritional injection because she was pregnant. Instead, she was injected with an anesthetic and she was mixed up with another patient and she had an abortion performed on her.
That's
We've
so
seen this
sad.
before.
So heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, in South Korea, abortion is illegal except for cases of rape or incest. The other lady that was going in to have an abortion, her baby died and the miscarriage wasn't complete. And so she was going in.
So
To
wasn't
have a DNC.
She was having a DNC.
Yeah. And so now this nurse and this doctor are being investigated and could face,
Good. Drop
time
them in
prison.
jail.
Exactly. I mean, I can't imagine, being excited about having a baby and then going in, just for a routine thing and then coming out.
Losing your baby, not having it.
You wake up and I'm sorry, we killed your baby.
Yeah.
And there's no telling how long they even tried,
Right.
and we don't know her
Who
story,
knows? Who
but
knows?
still,
It doesn't matter.
it's sad. It's very
It's a baby died because
baby died.
of a screw up, and because we have no respect for those babies anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
And then another story, abortion clinics are reporting record high violence. And they say that there's been an uptick in violence this year. And guess what? The people who are tracking this and reporting this is the National Abortion Federation.
right, NAF.
There's the group that are,
Right.
saying, oh, this is happening. Yeah, these clinics are experiencing more violence. And what they consider violence is harassment, stalking, and death threats.
Well, let me tell you, and I've told y'all about this before. This was before it's when you were a baby and before you were here. Years ago, the pro-aborts accused us of being a violent group. And
Not hardly.
what's her name? Janet Reno, when she's Attorney General, even mentioned us by name as a violent terrorist organization. And an FBI agent from Dallas was assigned our case, and he came up to visit with me. And he was somewhat apologetic when he came. He said, you don't have to let me in. You don't have to talk to me, nothing. I said, you come in. You can go through. And I told him, I said, you can go through any file cabinet in this building. You can open any computer. You can go through every square inch of this building. You can talk to anybody. You can take them out privately and talk to them. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. And he said, that won't be necessary. He said, I'll just take a few of your printed documents and I'll look at some of your stuff in the mailroom and that'll be it. Well, anyway, I got to talking to this guy, and he said, I'm getting close to the point that I'm not going to go out and take these orders that I'm being given. For an organization that prides itself on discipline, that's a pretty heady thing for an FBI agent to say. He said, but I'm getting tired of going out here because Janet Reno is the Attorney General, and she has sold her soul to the abortion industry, as has Bill Clinton, and investigating people for charges of violence and finding some little nun.
No.
And he said, we looked at some of the figures from the Department of Justice and from the FBI. And he gave me one example. He said, in Dallas, we had an abortion clinic that gave us a list of all the violence they had encountered in the last year or so. And one of them, he said, I looked at was 3 nuns from the local diocese who were on the sidewalk praying the rosary. That got counted as 3 instances of violence. And he said, I had to go out and investigate that.
Pathetic.
He said, they're close to ordering me to do things that I'm
Yeah.
not going to do.
And what they consider violence is, people outside abortion clinics holding up graphic signs or, appealing to the mothers not to murder their children. That is not violence. That's showing the truth. The real violence is happening behind those doors.
And we're seeing more and more violence
On their side.
on their side
Yeah.
toward people that are pro-lifers.
Yes.
I mean, they shove, they yell, they scream. They're the violent ones. They're the terrorists.
I know, and just looking at the news yesterday, it was one thing after another with them. And even Life News now has a huge list of the different states where things are going on, violent
Well, we've had
acts
them
are
here on
going
Life
on.
Talk.
Yeah.
And that 67-year-old woman, I think, was in Ohio.
Yeah.
And they knocked her down, broke her hip.
Yeah.
Nothing was done.
Yeah.
Nothing was done. And it was on video.
It was.
And we showed the video all here on Live Talk.
So the real terrorism isn't from us, it's from them.
Yeah, that's a fact. Anyway, let's take a moment out for robots, and when we come back, I want to talk about something that's going on in the presidential election right now.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as robots. This is how they think.
Abortion is not a big deal. It's just a simple medical procedure that, in most cases, only takes about 5 minutes.
So what? Just because babies can be killed simply and quickly doesn't make it right to kill them. A criminal can rob a convenience store and gun down everybody in the place in less than a minute. A drunk driver can kill an entire family in a split second. In 5 minutes, a woman can be beaten, raped, and murdered. These are just a few examples of simple procedures that only take a few minutes to accomplish. So what is the significance of how long an abortion takes? To appreciate the sheer stupidity of this argument, imagine that a baby girl is about to be aborted. But in this case, she's not going to be killed inside her mother's womb. She's going to be taken out alive and placed on a table. Also imagine that the whole thing is going to be shown live on primetime national television. So with the monitor hooked up to her, we see her heart race as the abortionist pulls off her arms and legs one at a time, crushes her chest, and collapses her skull so that her brains spill out on the table. In other words, he does the same thing to the same little girl that he would have done to her during a routine abortion. My question is, would the public's reaction to what they saw be swayed by the fact that it was simple and quick? We've all seen recently an interesting phenomenon start to occur, where you have all of these godless liberals that are running for president starting now to talk about the Bible. And I think Nancy Pelosi kind of set the tone for this a few years ago when she started talking about how her good Catholic faith animates everything that she does. Every baby that gets killed in her name, somehow or another, is tied to her Catholic faith. But I think that the Democrats have picked up on something, and that is that they may be hostile to people with Christian values, but the general public is not. And so you've got all of these hardcore, godless Marxists that are running for president. They're out here now talking about the Bible and how the things that they advocate are all in the Bible. They're even saying now that if you're just skeptical of climate change, you're evil. Yeah. And it's unscriptural.
Well, I mean, you can twist the Bible all different ways to make it.
Yeah. Say whatever you want it to say.
Yeah.
And that's what these people are doing.
Yes.
Go read the text and you'll have a better understanding.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the biblical scholars like Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders and all these people. They're heretics and they're moral degenerates. But the interesting thing here is they're out here pushing all this stuff, and this Pete Buttigieg, whatever his name is, from Indiana, practicing homosexual, right? Raging pro-abort, constantly talking about his Christian faith. Yet, no one on the godless left is telling these people to keep their religious views to themselves, right? But if you have somebody come out here and say, I'm pro-life because God created that child at the moment of fertilization, I believe it's a living human being, that's fine for you to believe that, but don't try to enforce your religion on me.
Yeah, right.
Or they would even sometimes say, it's not fine to believe that. You're wrong.
Right. It's
And they put up a fight. Yeah.
and put up a fight about it. But the question is, why are the Democrats doing this? And there's a very good explanation for it. If you grew up in a marketing environment like I did, and I used to talk about this in my old seminars that I did, teaching pro-lifers how to articulate the pro-life position. There is a strategy in marketing called hang a lantern. And it comes from the times when people used to sell horse-drawn buggies and stuff. And so you're selling a used horse-drawn buggy, and it's got a place where it's got a flaw and a dent or a piece of wood missing. All these things had lanterns for lights at night. What you do is you take your lantern and you hang it on that flaw, and nobody looks at it.
To cover it up.
You basically use the lantern, the light coming from the lantern and the lantern itself, to hide the flaw. And it's called hanging a lantern. So when you have a product that has a flaw versus its competitors, you go out and you advertise the flaw as an advantage. And I've given y'all lots of examples of this in my experience. People that, car companies have done it. All kinds of people have done this, where they have hang a lantern on their flaw and sell it as an advantage. And then nobody looks at it.
Right.
Well, that's why in the Bible it talks about looking at what kind of fruit a tree produces. Is it good fruit or bad fruit? And that'll tell you about the tree. It's important that Christians today do that. Say
Right.
and look at someone's actions, what they say, what they do, what they say they believe.
But in this hanging a lantern strategy, if you sell what you're doing, what your flaw is an advantage, nobody questions it. And what they're doing here is they're saying, we've got a problem with religion. None of us are Christians, none of us are religious people. We think the whole thing is a bunch of hooey, right? But the American people buy into it. So our strategy needs to be to come out and sell our positions as the Christian position, and that we're very strong Christian people. And so we hang a lantern on our flaw and nobody looks at it. And that's what they're doing. This whole thing with selling the godless left's position on things as a Christian position is their hang a lantern strategy. And I'll guarantee you they have got consulting from marketing people who've told them how to do this, because all of a sudden it just came out of the woodwork and they're all doing it. Bernie Sanders is doing it. We mentioned it in an early segment. Bernie Sanders is out here doing it. These guys all started doing it at the same time, and that's what people need to be aware of and to be wary of.
Well, I mean, that's always been politics. Tell the people what they want to hear, and then you get elected, voted into office, and then the politicians stab people in the back. I mean, that's how politics is done.
But this takes it to a whole new level, where you sell your actual disadvantage as an advantage. That's what they're doing, and that's what the hanging lantern strategy is. Anyway, that's it. Y'all got
That's
anything?
it. Nope, nothing else. Just give us your show ideas. We would love to hear them.
Yep. If you have an idea for a show, be sure and let Renee know. She's the gatekeeper around here, so if you let her know, she will let me know, and we'll decide. And if we use your idea, we'll send you a mug.
That's right.
That's the way it works.
Yes.
Is that it?
That's it.
Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next Tuesday.